Welcome back, everybody. I recently had the honor of directing, shooting, and editing a music video for my good friends in the band Spiritual Cramp. Now, these guys are a punk rock band based out of the San Francisco Bay Area, and if you followed me for a little while, you may have seen some other projects or other music videos that I've worked on with them. So in this video, I want to give you a quick breakdown on how we were able to create a music video with a really small crew, just 2 days of shooting, and only $500. But before we get into all that, why don't we watch the music video so you have a little bit more context on what I'll be talking about throughout this video. So without further ado, let's roll the tape. Like with most music videos I do, the turnaround time was rather quick on this one. In total, I think I had about 4 weeks from the time I got the phone call to doing the pre-production to shooting and editing the final piece. Now for some background, I took on the role of director, DP, and editor for this project, while Mike, who was the singer of the band, helped produce. We also had help from his wife Barb, who was executive producing, along with our friends Jack and Garrett, who assisted the shoots, making my life much easier. Now the concept for the video was really simple. We wanted to highlight the band playing live and showcase their wild energy, while cutting between a few other scenes to create a really fast, chaotic, and engaging music video for just this 1.5-minute song. So honestly, this is kind of the best case scenario when you've got no budget and no time. Just try to keep things really simple and really short. I'm really grateful that we chose a shorter song, which means we didn't have to film too much to fit a lot in. As soon as we locked in the concept, Mike's priority was finding locations. Now, finding a studio was easy. There are many psych wall studios in the Bay Area, and we had used this particular space before. The unfortunate part was all $500 of our budget was going to rent out this studio. Now, the tricky part was going to find a bar that we could film in and finding somebody who would lend us a motorcycle for free. So I went straight into creating a treatment so we could start laying out the visual style of the video. So day one of production was a really easy day. This is the day we shot everything on the Vespa. I know, I said we were originally looking for a motorcycle, but when life doesn't give you lemons, sometimes a lime will have to do. A friend of a friend was kind enough to let us borrow the Vespa for a few hours, so we took to the streets of Berkeley, where I live, while I set my tripod up in the back of a truck bed, and it was one of those moments where I was thinking, yeah, this is probably illegal and we might get pulled over for this, but we just tried to get everything filmed quickly and finished without any problems. It was a pretty easy day for us. I filmed a few extra pickup shots that never made it into the video, but I was happy I did it because one of them actually worked really well to start the video off for the intro. So day two was a big day for production. We arrived at the studio at 9 a.m. and spent about an hour and a half lighting and generally getting the band's equipment set up. So after getting everything set up, we ran through many takes of the song. Because it was so short, I wanted to make sure that I had enough content to fill this video. And I gotta give these guys credit. They were pretty much doing cardio nonstop for about 3 hours. And in terms of the lighting here, I lit most of the scene with RE650s and 350s, which are tungsten lights. And there was also this really cool old tungsten film light that was already at the studio. All of these lights were doubling as set design as we were going for a really rough behind the scenes sort of a look. I wanted the lights to be in the shot and I wanted it to look a little messy. I also had my Godox VL200, which I bounced off of an overhead softbox with a CTO gel in front, or a color temperature orange gel. So after wrapping up the studio stuff, we packed up and headed to a local dive bar, which we were able to film in for a few hours. Unfortunately, because we didn't have any budget left, we weren't able to pay them, and they were still serving regulars when we got there. So if there was one thing I would have changed about this video, I would have pushed to get the bar rented out, even if I had to pay out of pocket, even just for an hour or two with nobody else inside. Because they were operating as regular business hours, we had to make a lot of sacrifices for this scene. We weren't able to bring any large lights inside, we couldn't utilize the actual bar because there was too many people sitting there, and we couldn't play back the song very loud, which made the filming process difficult and dragged out way longer than it needed to. The only 2 lights I could bring in were the Nanlite Pavo tubes that I own, and we had to keep those pretty dim. So with that being said, a low budget video is a low budget video, and we had to make it work. I'm also grateful to the bartender for letting us film there for free, and we bought lots of drinks to repay them. And hopefully next time when we do work on a project and have a bigger budget, they'll let us rent it out. So now that we've covered how the actual production went, let's talk about everybody's favorite part, which is camera gear. So I shot this entire video on the Sony FX6 with a Sony 24-105 lens, no filters in the front or anything like that. And the studio stuff was either shot on a tripod or handheld with an easy rig for support. While the Vespa scene was fully shot on a tripod in the back of a truck bed, which was sandbagged down. I also used my Atomos Shogun Flame to record everything directly onto the monitor, and that was recorded in ProRes LT. And the only thing I didn't record on that was the slow motion stuff in the studio, which was shot on a CF Express Type A card, because, you know, data rates and stuff like that. And honestly, that's about it for camera specs. I'm happy with how the footage turned out and how reliable the FX6 is. Those NDs came in extremely helpful for the outdoor stuff, and the autofocus was incredible throughout every scene, from the studio stuff to the Vespa to the bar scene. I don't think I used manual focus once unless it was a critical shot. So with all the pre-production and filming stuff out of the way and all the camera specs, let's talk about the editing process, because I truly think this is where the actual video came together. Because we had so much footage to work with, and because the song was so short, I wasn't worried about not having enough footage. So first things first, I brought all the footage into Premiere, and I spent a few hours syncing all the takes in Premiere, organizing the project file, and within a day I was able to have a rough cut with a basic color grade. The nature of this video was meant to be chaotic and a little messy and crazy, so I didn't try to overthink it too much. I just wanted to lay it out and really just focused on pacing in general. Another thing is that when I was filming, I included these crazy whip pans thinking that I would be able to use them as transitions in the edit, and it turns out that those actually worked really well to go from scene to scene. It's something that I've done before and I have seen online, and I figured this would be a good project to use that technique on. So we went through a few revisions before I spent some time really locking in the color grade. And if I hop into my timeline here, you can see it was a pretty standard process for the work that I do. I converted all of the footage to Rec 709, applied a color grade LUT. This one in particular was The Big Trouble in Little China by Film Riot, and I topped it off with some grain and a little color adjustment with this Film Convert plugin, which I like quite a bit. I actually added a second layer of grain as well, which helped make things look even messier, but in a good way. It kind of added a little bit of that projection particle over the image. Now you might be thinking, Timmy, why would you use such an expensive camera with a nice lens and then purposefully try to lower the quality? The truth is although the FX6 is an amazing camera, it can be a little overly sharp and clinical at times, especially with the 24-105 lens on it. For this project, that wasn't the look or the intention we were trying to convey. If I had just applied a light grade, this video would have a totally different feel and look than I would have actually liked, and I think we would have missed a mark there. Your camera is just a tool, and personally for me, what I look for in a camera is that it can be flexible enough to bend in many directions, depending on the project you're working on, which in this case, I think it did beautifully. Sometimes if I'm doing a commercial or an interview, I want that really sharp, high-def look. But for this, a punk rock music video, that just wasn't gonna fly. Well, that's about it for this one, folks. I hope you enjoyed that behind the scenes look at how we shot this music video, and I hope it gave you some insight on how I'm able to pull off these types of low budget projects. Huge shout out to everybody in the band, Mike B, Barb, Garrett, and everyone who made it possible. Although I took on many roles in this project, without the help of these people, it wouldn't have been as easy as it was, and I wouldn't have behind the scenes footage to share with you. If you have any questions about the music video or the camera gear or specs or anything, feel free to shout them out down below and I'll make sure to write back to you. As always, I appreciate you watching, and if you're interested in seeing more of my work, make sure to subscribe and follow me on Instagram at TimmyLodi. And until the next one, peace.
Okay, sweetheart.